Firstly, thank you so much for having me here today. It's very a moment of pride for me to be here talking about investments on Women's Day. As and when a country progresses and women become a part of the workforce, invariably, we see women talking about managing their finances. And in India, women always were dependent on their family for, financial sense of security. But as, women are earning, they're looking out for their own individual sense of security. And, which is why we're seeing increasingly a number of women coming and, working hard towards finding their own financial independence. And we can see the numbers, how interesting they are.
Okay, Priyanka, from your own experience, are there ways in which, any specific ways in which women can align themselves to a more financially independent mindset? Not just rely on somebody else for their investment decisions.
The first step, when it comes to thinking about your finances or your financial independence, is thinking about what are you really investing for, right? And invariably, we usually think about investments in terms of our spending goals, right? I want to buy a house, I want to save for retirement, I want to buy a new car, I want to save for a medical emergency. But the way women should think about their finances is more in terms of financial independence, right? Because women today want to be in the driver's seat of their life and decide, when they want, to take a sabbatical or take a leave, or leave their job to travel, take up a job that pays less, and still afford the same kind of lifestyle. So, looking out for financial independence, we invariably turn to a lot of people for advice, right? The first people that come to our mind are our family and friends, and after that, financial advisors. But what's really missing in that link is women themselves taking an active effort of reading about financial literature and being a little more aware. So today, if you're talking to a financial advisor or your friend tells you that you should invest here, you'll make so and so x amount of returns on this kind of investment. We don't really have a lot of content in our own minds to be able to counter that argument, right? And that's where financial literacy, reading about what's happening in the world, really helps you take investment decisions. So this is what women should really, really try to, focus a bit on.
I can understand and even appreciate the need for more women to want to be involved in with their finances. But is there really a difference in the way men and women think about money and about managing money?
There is a very interesting thing, and you'll see that in your own life, that we tend to prefer asset classes that we understand. Okay, and given where the uh, knowledge of financial assets are in India, and it's at a very infant stage, right? Women tend to understand more of physical assets, be it gold or real estate, or say some financial assets like FDs, right? Because they feel safe, and which is why women tend to invest in these safer kind of assets rather than investing in equities or debt. That is one difference, right? Because men have traditionally been a little more involved about the markets, be it equity or debt in some form or the other. Heard from their parents, or there were dinner table conversations or something of that sort. That is one difference. I think the other difference is inherently the way in which men and women think about risk. And women are said to be a little more risk averse. I think it's a little misleading, because women believe in taking more calculated risks, investing in assets that they understand. And which is why we tend to say that women don't really invest as much in equity or debt, for that matter. I think it's more a function of what do we really understand, right? And breaking the stereotype that men and women actually invest differently, I think the more important point to note here is that how we invest is a function of what our upbringing has been, or what have we faced in our adult life. That really shapes the way we really invest? Like, where did our family invest their money? So if your father has been investing in equity ever since you were a kid, you'll invariably have a little more comfort about investing in equity. It's got nothing to do whether I'm a man or a woman. It's more about what you've seen while growing up. So I think the stereotype that women don't like to take risks is a little uncalled for. And interestingly, there was this book I stumbled upon, which is called Warren Buffett Invests Like a Girl. And it talks in a very interesting way about you really don't have to just take a lot of risk to make consistent wealth. It's more about just being consistent in your savings and in terms of your time horizon for building wealth in life.
Yeah. No, even if you speak to financial advisors, any number of them will tell you that, women portfolios tend to perform better than men over the long term. Maybe just because they don't tinker as much, right? So they get the benefit of compounding. But having said that, your whole point of women being more comfortable with physical assets also noted, but how do you then diversify that portfolio, right? Because while you have this comfort level with gold, real estate, and so on, but there is a need to be involved with financial assets as well, the mutual funds, stock market. Stock market also, if you don't understand, that's fair enough. But can they really avoid mutual funds? I mean, is that not a risk in itself?
I think the comfort really stems out from the fact that you really are taking an active effort in terms of understanding an asset class, right? So when you spend a little of your time in being a little more financially literate in terms of understanding asset class, you're able to diversify your portfolio a little more better. Instead of just investing in physical assets, and I think I am seeing that change. With people around me. Unfortunately, most of these conversations have to start when you're a kid, right? They either have to be a part of dinner table conversations at home about different asset classes, about how you should think about investing, or at school or at college level, right? But we don't really have that kind of an environment in India. But what women can actually do to increase their financial literacy is to actually go ahead and read. I often tell my friends that there is no dearth of content. There's dearth of intent when it comes to understanding the financial markets or financial assets in general. And like my friends often ask me that where should we really start from? And if you really face that issue, you should actually go ahead and talk to financial advisors who will guide you about how to go about investing. And in terms of diversification, if your understanding is really not that great, you should look forward to invest in mutual funds who do the job of diversification for you, right? Like you could choose balanced funds or asset allocator funds. It's your job is not really to be an expert in financial investing. Your job should actually be to find the right kind of people who will help you understand where to put your money.
Okay, so that is one thing that a lot of women should be taking on board, is that it's perfectly fine to seek help, and in seeking help, try and understand and not just sort of give the reins to the other person to do it for you, right? The objective is to do it together. But even in this case of say understanding a traditional investment option like say gold. Now we have what we can rival any central bank in the world in terms of the amount of physical gold that Indian households have, right? Even this, while the underlying gold is understood well, should the shift to say a gold ETF take place? Because you do understand what you're investing in. It's just the manner is different, right?
Absolutely. But, like I said, it's really about the understanding that the underlying asset makes a return for you, whereas physical gold is just, uh, you know, uh, just not being monetized into the financial system, right? I know a lot of people who've converted gold from their wedding, and they're monetizing that asset. In India, I think that understanding is at a very nascent stage. But as and when you are actually reading about these financial assets, your interest automatically develops, and instead of investing in physical gold, people look forward to invest in gold ETFs. So we've just started on the journey, and I'm pretty sure that this journey is going to advance much more forward in years to come.
The other thing, Priyanka, with women is that, you know, one is that we may not be so actively engaged in the finances. The other is that, there are so many life stages for women's life where, sort of these decisions may take a backseat. For example, you just have a baby, right? Or, even throughout the pregnancy, it may not be possible for you to sort of have your career and, everything else going for you. So, how can a woman sort of prepare for, these kind of situations?
The very obvious answer for it is to start investing early in your career. Uh, very obviously, if you are saving enough right at the start, instead of starting to save late, uh, you have half your problems solved. Essentially, what is really the question that comes to your mind when you are looking out for a sabbatical before your pregnancy, or sorry, during your pregnancy, and once you want to spend some time while your kid is growing up? It's actually the fact that, do I have enough finances in place to take this decision, right? If you have a good family support, great, right? You don't really have to go so much in depth about this question. But if you are saving early, right when you start your career, you'll have enough finances for you to have the financial freedom to take this decision. So the answer is that you have to start saving early, to be able to be financially free in life.
Yeah, that's the answer to every question, right? For anything, starting early gives you a huge advantage, which will help you tide over most of the issues. I was reading a very interesting survey by one of the financial platforms, and they said that, in terms of women who are looking to self-educate, there was a higher prevalence of this intent in the non-metros as opposed to the metros. Is that something that you have noticed? And how do women in tier two, tier three cities, or how do non-working women sort of get onto this investing bandwagon?
The first thing that you ask anyone about, how should I start my investing journey, they're going to bombard you with names of books that might actually intimidate you. And the answer to the question that you just asked is that you have so much content at your disposal, right? You just Google about basics of finance. You have several apps that are available at your disposal, like Grow or Zerodha, or just going out there on YouTube, searching for a few videos. There's so much content on Twitter, Instagram. And as soon as you start searching and researching about these things, the algorithm will actually throw 10 different other options at you. And it's actually about the intent of starting the journey. And then there is enough and more content at your disposal that will help you understand the entire process of investing. Uh, that said, I think there are a phenomenal number of books that have been written on how to go about managing your money. If there are two books that I could recommend, Rich Dad Poor Dad and Psychology of Money are two very simple books that you can actually start your investing journey. They will not tell you about where to invest, but they'll tell you about how to invest your money. And I think that that first step is the most important step, about conditioning your mind in a way that puts you on the right path for a long-term wealth creation journey.
Yeah, the philosophy of investing rather than the products, right? Because especially if you look at portfolios which are constructed over 10, 20, 30 years, what we find is that, there are 10, 20, 30, 40, 80 different products all rolled into one. None of them, sort of complementing each other, but they're just there because we've been buying products and not really thinking of our portfolio as one cohesive being. But the other problem also, Priyanka, is that a lot of people, and it's not just specific to women. There is this confusion between saving and investing. That I'm saving does not mean I'm investing. So how do people get over this mindset?
The art of saving is actually very well ingrained in our lives from a very, very young age. Our parents have grown from an era of scarcity. Somehow, the millennials and Gen Z haven't, but they've been telling us right from the start that you need to save for for a bright future. So I don't see Indians having a problem of saving. The issue is how do you really channelize those savings into investments? And that's where I think financial literacy really comes into picture. And taking advice from financial advisors, friends, family, and talking to people, asking questions about how should you go about learning the art of investing. Uh, yeah.
One more question that I get, or rather, one more trend that I have noticed is that some people are keen to learn. A lot of women are keen to learn. It's just that they may not be easily understanding a lot of the financial terms that are there. Is learning about investing, or even the investing philosophy, all that difficult as it's made out to be?
Not really, right? Okay, I know that the financial industry is to be blamed for bombarding us with very, very difficult financial terms. Honestly, while growing up, I have faced the same issue. But like I said, you got a term, just Google it, right? There is enough and more content, even in vernacular languages today, that will help you understand what does this term really mean. And like I said, there's a dearth of intent. The way you go about your diet and your workout and several different things that you're learning from the internet today, if you take an active effort to learn a few more terms of financial investment, I think it's a start of a great journey, because there's no other happiness that I value in the world more than being financially independent. So if you really want that goal to be achieved at some point of time in life, you should take that active effort of actually investing time behind your financial independence.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point you've raised. That even in local languages, a lot of information is now available, and all it takes is for you to Google it, a few times. Because sometimes what happens is that people don't even know what they should be asking, right? So they keep talking about, is this particular policy good, or is this particular scheme good? Should I invest in it? But over a period of time, it will evolve, right? Your questions will evolve, and therefore the knowledge that you're connecting will evolve as well. Are there any specific tools, Priyanka, for women to sort of use for their investing journey, or is an advisor perhaps the best route?
See, the advisor will guide you on where to invest, but you need to have enough knowledge yourself to ask the advisor the right questions as well, you know, because they can guide you on where to invest, but you know what goals you want to achieve over a longer period of time. And it's like going to the doctor, right? Unless you are able to tell the doctor what problem you really have, the doctor will not be able to diagnose you with the right treatment. Similarly, you need to know what you want to achieve in life. If your goal is financial independence at 40, uh, your way, your style of investing, the amount of savings you need to have is going to be very different from a person who wants to retire at 60. So, you need to be a little more suave about what you really want, become a little more financially literate about things, and then reach out to your financial advisor. I think it's honestly very difficult for a person from a non-financial background to make these decisions themselves, and in that situation, a financial advisor is indispensable, right? Honestly, that financial advisor does not have to be someone from the outside; it can actually be someone from your family also. But knowing things is very important. And, like you rightly pointed out, uh, a lot of people grapple with the problem that where do we really start from? I think reading one newspaper or one financial newspaper a day, might really help you a lot, or watching channels like CNBC are really going to help you a lot in the long term, to build your knowledge about, not just where to invest, but also about how the world really works.
Yeah, and I mean, investing is a long game, right? You're not in it for 1 or 2 years. So spending time and learning about it is going to stand you in good stead for what, half a century at least. But Priyanka, since we've spoken so much about what our parents like, and how things were and how things are changing, one thing that doesn't change is that even today, a lot of investors, even today, a lot of women think that insurance is an investment. So, because of this, they may find themselves underinsured. They may find themselves wrongly insured, and certainly they're lacking in the investment department. So, how do they sort of align their minds to this?
Also, insurance, as a product, we need to understand is, actually built to serve us during trying times. And it's, at least from my perspective, is not a product that's going to build you wealth. And that's the distinction that you need to have in your mind when you're investing in an insurance product. If your goal is to build wealth, you have to invest in products that compound over a period of time. So whenever you're buying an insurance policy, you actually need to check what return on investment am I actually going to make on this policy, if wealth creation is what you're looking out for from that insurance product. uh, Similarly, when you're investing in mutual funds or stocks, that's the question you need to ask yourself, right? What is the return on investment that this is going to make me? Because wealth creation essentially is saving for a reasonably long period of time with a certain amount of returns. When you get that equation correct, is when you're going to build wealth for yourself. So that is, really the terms in which you should think about while making any investment decision, whether be it insurance products or FDs or mutual funds per se.
Yeah, absolutely. Insurance is a risk cover. You're paying a premium to buy insurance for an eventuality. But investment is, what you're making, like Priyanka said, to sort of compound your wealth. Priyanka, another question that I want to ask is that, a lot of women may be unaware of investments. So investments are being made on their behalf by members of the family. They may not be aware of it. Which is the best way to sort of consolidate their investments, and how should they keep track of it in case it requires changes or needs to be rejigged, etc.
The book I just mentioned about, called Psychology of Money, talks in one of the chapters that your goals change with your age. And, very rightly, you mentioned about, uh, how, your investing decisions have to change with your age as well. In terms of consolidating your portfolios, I think, um, you actively need to ask your family about where the investments are being made. I think, in a lot of Indian families, discussing money is not a very comfortable topic. But reaching out to your parents or your spouse and actively discussing money matters is something that's really important. I think that is one way to actually gather all the information about uh, your money.
So normalize this talk about money with children, so that they can in turn become better at what we're trying to do. But which is the best way to sort of familiarize younger girls with this concept of money? Any tools or tricks or tips?
I think, just like we have life skills sessions in school, having a conversation about money is very, very important. I'm pretty surprised that we don't even talk about money in college, and not just school. So I think the best way for families to familiarize not just women, even men for that matter, about money is to start involving children in financial decisions from a young age, when they really are in a position to understand about money. I think other than that, empowering them in terms of taking some little decisions of their own really helps, because in your investing journey, what you really fear is the risk of failure. And in your growing years, when you understand that investing, successful investing is actually a series of failures combined with a few successes, and you can still build wealth with that, is what we really need to ingrain in the minds of children at a very young age. Um I think other than that, a more open conversation about money management between spouses is also very important. But from, a young life perspective, I think, openly discussing money conversations with people really, really helps. It really does not have to be your immediate family, but also people whom you know are in the financial field but are in your family, about how to go about thinking of investments.
And Priyanka, just one final question to wrap this up. What are the common investing mistakes that you think women should know about?
I think, one mistake that a lot of people are guilty of is that we ape other people's investing style, or, where they're actually putting their money. Just like someone else's diet plan is not going to help you, someone else's investing strategy is also not going to help you, right? Because their goals are different, their ambitions are different, their time horizon is different. So it's not an apple to apple comparison, and a lot of us are guilty of it. I think other point is that a lot of people don't diversify their portfolios enough, and that really does hurt at some point of time, because not all asset classes do well at the same time. Also, the power of compounding really works when you're patient enough for a really long period of time, but you have to start saving early as well for that power of compounding to really, really do well for a really long period of time. If you were to take Warren Buffett's example, he started investing at a very early age. But if you read about how he built wealth, about 95% of his wealth was actually built after the age of 60, 65. So, you know, we often start worrying about what to do when we see that the markets are volatile, and then we, often I have heard of people, stopping their SIPs because the markets are really volatile and they're scared of what to do. But it's in times like these that you really have to, buckle yourself up and say that, I am on a long-term investment journey, and volatility in markets like these should not impact my investment decisions today. Is something that we need to keep in mind.
And this is what you learn when you learn about the philosophy of investing, not just where to invest, but how to invest, how to stay true to your investments, and therefore how to allow yourself to be rewarded over the long term. Priyanka, thank you very much for joining us and for sort of speaking about many of the things which at some level is common sense, but when you hear somebody speaking about it, it sort of brings to for the point that all of these, while they may be very, very common things, if done consistently and diligently over a period of time, can be very, very rewarding to women as investors. So thanks very much, Priyanka, and thanks
Thank
to everybody who's been watching. I hope this has been useful to you. Stay safe.